Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gabby and today I'm going to be doing a very exciting video because it's going to be reading books that are kind of like Stranger Things. Because, you know, Stranger Things, as you might know, season 4 just recently ended and I thought this would be the perfect time for me to read some books that are similar to Stranger Things because it's a show that I absolutely love. I've been watching Stranger Things since 2016 and it's been such a huge part of my life because I'm such a big fan of this show and I've been wanting to make a video like this for literally years, and I thought this summer would be the perfect time to do that because the Stranger Things hype has never been more real because season 4 was so freaking good. However, before we do jump into the video, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to today's video sponsor, which is Fabulous. Fabulous is the #1 self-care app to help you build better habits and achieve your goals. The Fabulous app is a digital coach that uses behavioral science to help you develop habits to give you the life that you want. And the nice thing is that there's a community of 30 million users that will help you develop healthy habits and stay on top of your personal goals. I'm definitely the kind of person who appreciates some structure and a daily routine, and I really like that this app has already helped me with my daily routine with reminding me to do things like stretching and going on a short walk. I really like too that it's 100% personalized and that there are 2 different approaches to this. One of them is more of a self-guided one for habit building tracking, and then there's a guided approach with dedicated programs that are specifically designed to help you achieve your goals. It's kind of like having a coach in your pocket. But I like that you can kind of, go at your own pace, which, unlike other self-development apps that make you feel stressed or frustrated when you can't keep up, this app is more gentle and more rewarding, and it offers more support instead of pressure, which is something that I really appreciate. So from those 2 different approaches, the habit tracking is one where you can track specific habits, or you can create your own, or you can choose a dedicated program, which is going to be something that you immerse yourself into for a few weeks, and it helps you to achieve those goals that are some more long-term goals. I've personally really enjoyed the habit tracking approach because I find it really useful and really helpful to get alerts to do things like drink water during the day, because I can get so busy during the day and kind of lose focus of those things that I'm trying to also accomplish during the day, like drinking water and reminding myself to take a minute to deep breathe during the day. A challenge that I've recently started, because they have these different challenges that you can do that are about a week-long challenge of something to do once a day. And so I've recently started taking the breathe challenge, which is a reminder once a day to take a few deep breaths and just remind yourself to relax. And it's a 7-day long challenge. I've been doing it for a few days now and it's just been really useful for me. So you can start building your ideal daily routine. The first 100 people to click on that link in my description will get 25% off a Fabulous subscription. And thank you so much once again to Fabulous for sponsoring today's video. And now let's get into the books. So if you're wondering which books I'm planning to read for this video, I'm excited that I have kind of a mix of things because I have some books that I've heard are similar to Stranger Things just over the years. I also have a few books that actually mention if you like Stranger Things or Stranger Things meets this in the description of the book. But then most of the books that I got for this video actually came off of this article that I found. So Book Riot actually published this article in 2019 and it says 10 books like Stranger Things to feed your need. And so there are 10 books on this list that they have compared to Stranger Things. The only book that I have actually read on this list is My Best Friend's Exorcism, which I think is a really interesting choice because I can definitely see the similarities to Stranger Things, but I don't think that it's super comparable to Stranger Things. But this is the first book mentioned on this list, so it has me a little nervous but also a little intrigued. So I decided to look through this list and I ended up picking 4 books off of this list to read for this video, and then I'm going to be reading a total of 6 books for this video. So the first book that I decided to pick off of this list is The Body by Stephen King, which I'm really curious, anytime Stephen King books get compared to Stranger Things, because I definitely think that Stranger Things was probably heavily influenced by Stephen King, and The Body is one that I have not yet read. In this article too, it does talk about how Carrie is kind of similar, or It is also kind of similar, but because I've already read those 2 books, I think The Body would be a great pick for this video. And this one is a novella that came out in 1982, and it focuses on friendship and coming of age, and it says the nostalgia focuses on the 1950s rather than the 1980s. So this one is a bit more in the past compared to Stranger Things, but I am curious to see how it's going to compare. Another book that was recommended on this list is The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor LaValle, and this is one that I've actually been curious to read for a long time. It's a really short book as well, which is another thing that intrigues me about it. And apparently this book is a novella that's a retelling of H.P. Lovecraft, The Horror at Red Hook. I guess it also has to do with him like opening a portal and there's some dark magic, and I don't know, I don't need to know anything more than that. I'm gonna read it for this video. I'm also excited to finally be reading Sawkill Girls for this video, and I'm so excited it was included on this list because this is a book that I've had on my TBR since it came out in 2018. And this one, we're following this group of girls that are on this island called Sawkill Rock where all of these young girls are going missing. And on the Book Riot website here, the comparison to Stranger Things sounds really accurate because it says a secret organization that studies strange monsters from other dimensions, check. Young teen friendship, check. Girls with supernatural powers, check. A small town with dark secrets, check, check, check. So I'm so excited to read this, and I'm hoping that it has all of the Stranger Things vibes. And then the last book that I'm going to be reading that I'm picking off of this article is The Lost Girls of Camp Forevermore. The general premise of this book is that it follows these 5 different girls who get lost when they're camping, and then we follow each girl's journey and survival story as they've dealt with like the trauma of everything that they experienced. It does sound like it's a little bit more contemporary, but on the website, on Book Riot, in the article, they said if you like the childhood friendships, the coming of age storylines, and the concept of kids working together to survive against the odds, then they would recommend this for fans of Stranger Things. So we're reading it for this video. And then 2 of the books that I personally chose because I've heard that they're very similar to Stranger Things. One of them is going to be Paper Girls, which this is a graphic novel like comics series. I'm really intrigued by this series because I didn't realize that it's from Brian K. Vaughan, who also did the Saga series, which is actually like probably my favorite graphic novel series that I've ever read. And this one gives me major Stranger Things vibes just based on the premise because we're following these 4 12-year-old girls, and it takes place on the night after Halloween in 1988. And they're like newspaper delivery girls, you know, so they're the ones who go out early in the morning, they toss the newspapers. Then apparently there's something supernatural that like comes to their town, and they take it upon themselves to go and explore and discover what it means. And just like the premise alone gives me major Stranger Things vibes. I've heard from a few of my friends that this has major Stranger Things vibes, so we're gonna read Paper Girls for this video. And then the last book that I'm reading for this video is When the Sky Fell on Splendor by Emily Henry, which I'm so excited to read this book because I have enjoyed quite a few of Emily Henry's books before. This one is a young adult book, which is one of her only young adult books that she's ever written, but this one is a little bit more sci-fi, if you can't tell from this gorgeous cover. I'm so excited to finally be reading this because I've literally had this book on my TBR for forever, but the reason I wanted to save it for this video is because right on the inside flap right here, it says The Serpent King meets Stranger Things. So I was like, okay, I have to save this for if I do a video in the future of reading books like Stranger Things, because as I said, I've been planning this video for literally years. And so the time has finally come. We're going to be reading When the Sky Fell on Splendor. In this book, the general premise just says that it takes place in the small town of Splendor, Ohio, and everyone was affected when the local steel mill exploded. And then we follow this 17-year-old girl named Franny 5 years after the explosion, and in the wake of this tragedy, she's found a group of friends who, you know, like who's going through what she's going through. The group calls themselves The Ordinary, and they spend their free time investigating local ghost stories and legends, filming their exploits on their small following of YouTube fans, until one evening when the strange and dangerous thing they film isn't fiction, a bright light, something massive hurling towards them from the sky. You know, it sounds like Aliens, it sounds like it'll be fun, but I'm so excited to finally get to this one. Like, as I said, I've been wanting to get to it forever. Like, let's do it, let's go. I also did want to mention that I was going to include this book, The Loop, in this reading vlog as well, because the inside flap of this book says Stranger Things meets World War Z, which are both things that I absolutely love. So I was 100% planning to include this in this video, but I got 90 pages in and I decided to DNF it because I really was not a fan of this writing style at all. Yeah, these are the 6 books that I'm planning to read for this video. I am so freaking excited. If you are a fan of Stranger Things, please let me know in the comments what is your favorite season of Stranger Things, and also who are your favorite characters. If you're curious about my opinions, I think my favorite season is either season 2 or season 4. I really loved season 4. I thought it was one of the strongest seasons. And then for favorite characters, it's so hard because I genuinely do love them all. Like, I adore them all. But most recently, I feel like my favorite characters have been Steve, Robin. I also really adore Dustin, and then Eleven, of course, like a bad bitch, Eleven. I love Hopper as well. There's just so many great characters on the show that it's hard to choose, but I love them all. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about the new season, and yeah, let's get into reading some of these books, shall we? wanted to do my first official update because I'm now 172 pages into When the Sky Fell on Splendor. And if you are wondering, I think this is like my 6th book that I've read from Emily Henry. I've read quite a bit of her stuff. I've read 2 of her young adult books, and then I've read 3 of her like adult romance books, and I definitely have a preference for her adult romance writing. There was basically this accident that happened in their town 5 years ago where the local steel mill exploded. It was a little bit hard to follow like what exactly was happening with that. I was like, okay, like I don't fully understand it, but now we're following this 17-year-old girl named Franny 5 years after this incident, and her brother is like still in a coma from this incident, and the whole town has kind of been affected by it, and she's friends with this group of teenagers. They all call themselves the Ordinary, which is, you know, it's a little cheesy, not gonna lie, it's just a tad cheese. But they also spend a lot of their free time kind of like documenting through video. Like they have their own little YouTube channel where they like document, you know, kind of creepy things in the town or like suspicious paranormal activities and things. And then one evening they capture something that they think was kind of like actually creepy and legit, and they think that they're onto something, and so the book is kind of about them investigating what they think they saw. 50% of the way through the book now, and I feel like just now things are starting to get a little creepy and it's starting to get a little interesting. I feel like with this book so far, you know, I just don't really care a whole lot about this friend group, and you know, that was kind of my worry with this video, with like reading, you know, books like Stranger Things, because I feel like any book that has some kind of paranormal or supernatural thing with a group of teenagers or like young kids is going to be compared to Stranger Things, but I feel like Stranger Things is the exception of like something that I like, because I feel like a lot of times like these groups of friends can be kind of obnoxious, and I feel like I don't really know any of these characters that well, you know? And I feel like they're all just very kind of like one-dimensional. Even the main character, like we get these random flashback chapters about their past and like things that have happened in their, you know, childhoods and things like that, but I still just don't really care that much. Like the writing just isn't really doing it for me. I also feel like, to be honest, it's a little bit hard to follow at times. I was looking to see if it was just me, but I saw a couple other reviews on Goodreads saying that it was a little confusing in the first 100 pages just to like follow what was happening. And I guess I just don't really understand, or like I can't fully grasp the idea of like what happened in this town with the explosion and everything. It was just kind of confusing. I don't know, because I'm already halfway through, you know, it's reading super quick. It's almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon right now. I think I am just gonna power through and try to get this done today. And at this point in time, you know, like I said, things are just now starting to get a little creepy and a little interesting, so I am curious to see where this is gonna go. It's about 7 o'clock. We made some dinner earlier. It was freaking fantastic. It was like an avocado bacon carbonara dish that my sister likes to make. It's so freaking good. And then after dinner, I was able to finish When the Sky Fell on Splendor. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of surprised that this book went in the direction that it did, and that the ending was like kind of like emotional and beautiful. Like I wasn't really expecting that from this ending, if I'm being honest. Those last like 2 pages were just like so well written and so beautiful, so that kind of surprised me, to be honest, because for the most part I didn't really enjoy this story, and for the whole entire story I was really thinking I was gonna give this 2 stars, but honestly like that ending makes me want to bump it up to like a 2.5 maybe. I feel like my issue with this book is that I just didn't care about any of the characters in this book. Like there's not a single character I really feel like I know, or I really feel like I connected with. Not only that, but like even though this book did have a few good, you know, like kind of creepy sci-fi kind of moments to it that definitely, you know, reminded me of Stranger Things a little bit, I just feel like those moments were so few and far between, and I always wanted more from those scenes, you know. I feel like we never really got enough of like the creepy stuff that I wanted from this. And maybe that is because this is like a young adult book, so maybe it just didn't quite go there the way that I wanted it to. If I wasn't reading this for this reading vlog, I probably would have DNF'd this about halfway through, just because, as I said, it took so long before this book got interesting, and then even after it was interesting, I still didn't really care about the characters. I just wanted to see where this story was going. So yeah, I think for my personal enjoyment, like my rating of the book is probably going to be a 2 to 2.5 stars, but to compare this to like Stranger Things and how much I think it's similar to Stranger Things, I would probably give it a 3 out of 5 on like the similarities to Stranger Things, just because it definitely has the vibe of like the group of kids that are all friends and they're trying to, you know, like investigate something in their town. And it also has like the same small town vibes as Stranger Things, but the biggest difference I think is that these kids are like 17-ish, 18 years old. Like they're a lot older than the kids in Stranger Things. And then also, you know, like the supernatural elements and the way they're kind of not fully explained kind of reminded me a little bit of Stranger Things as well. But I feel like this book was trying to do like its best impression of Stranger Things. Like I don't think this would even come close. I hope that's not the case with a lot of these books that I'm going to read in this video, that they're just trying to like make something similar to Stranger Things just because Stranger Things is like all the hype right now, you know? Like I hope that these can actually stand as stories on their own. But I don't know, this was super forgettable for me overall, so like, I'm glad that I finally read it, you know, because at least now I know. But to be honest, this is probably my least favorite Emily Henry that I've read so far, so that's a total bummer. Rachel made it these beautiful French toasts. These French toasts this morning. Isn't this amazing? Like, wow, professional quality. I made the eggs and the little sausages here. Oh, the next day, and it's about 1:30 in the afternoon right now, and I'm going to start The Lost Girls of Camp Forevermore. This is going to be the next one that I shall read for this video. I'm currently doing reading sprints right now with some friends on my Patreon, because I just thought, you know, I'm going to be laying in bed today trying to read this whole book anyways, so like I might as well just like do some reading sprints with friends while I'm at it. So yeah, let's just go ahead and jump right in. I hope it's good. I'm kind of nervous now because I just saw on Goodreads right now that this book has like a 3.2 out of 5 on Goodreads. So like, holy shit. I probably wouldn't have picked this to read if I had seen that beforehand, because that just sounds pretty low. But I'm gonna keep an open mind. We're gonna jump right in. I have the audiobook from the library, so like, let's just do it. Again, friends, it has not been very long. I'm only 70 pages into The Lost Girls of Camp Forevermore, but sadly, I feel like I have to DNF this for my sanity, because this book is just so incredibly boring. The whole general premise of this book is that we're following these 5 girls who, you know, they went to this camp when they were like young teenagers, but then they ended up getting lost at the end of the day. And so that's kind of like the main story that's happening, is that we're reading about these girls in the camp and they got lost. But then we also get like flash forwards to like when we're following them a little bit later in their lives. So it kind of does read like a mix of adult and young adult, because we do get a ton of moments from their adult lives and how their lives have shaped out because of who they were when they got lost and all this shit. It's just so fucking boring. And you know, I realized that this is a contemporary story, and so I don't think it's gonna go in any interesting direction, because there's nothing like, you know, supernatural or paranormal that's gonna happen, because this is a contemporary story. And so I feel like I have to DNF this because I'm bored out of my mind. I don't care about any of the characters, and I just feel like this is one of those books where it's so overwritten. Like there's just so much unnecessary detail about every little thing, and I just don't care. I feel like this book probably would have been better if it was written in a different way, because, you know, this book kind of starts with like one little scene when they're at camp, and then we jump into one of the girls' point of views, and we just get to read about her adult boring life that I don't care about. And it's like at the end of her part, which is a really long chapter by the way, she's like, oh, this reminds me of when I got lost at camp, and then we go into another flashback, and it's like the main aspect of the story isn't even really about the camp. It's like about their boring adult lives, and like I just don't freaking care. So I feel like I'm gonna be DNFing this. I'm not gonna be rating it because I'm DNFing it at 70 pages in, but I just know myself, and I know that I would not like this and it wouldn't be my thing. But also, just to say, like, the Stranger Things vibes in this, I would give this a 0 out of 5 in comparison to Stranger Things. I think the the only thing similar about this with Stranger Things is that we're following a group of like, you know, young girls, but that is not enough of a reason to compare yourself to Stranger Things or to put this on a list of like, if you like Stranger Things, check this out, because like they are not similar at all. Yeah, you can say coming of age for young kids in Stranger Things, like that is something you can relate, but if that's the only thing you can relate, then I don't really think that that's comparable to Stranger Things, especially something that's like not even sci-fi or at all fantasy or at all horror, like nothing like that, just a contemporary coming of age story. I personally would not compare this to Stranger Things, and I don't think it's worth checking out if you're reading it because it's similar to Stranger Things. I would say hard pass. So anyways, now that that's done, I'm thinking I might start on either Paper Girls next, or I might start listening to the audiobook for the Ballad of Black Tom. This one is actually pretty short, and so I feel like I'd still be able to finish this one possibly today while I'm on sprints. I've been live for about an hour and 40 minutes now, so I'm hoping that I realistically could get this done today. It's only about like 150 pages, and the audiobook is like 3 hours long. Hi, it's a little bit later in the afternoon, it's about 5 o'clock, and I finished reading The Ballad of Black Tom while I was on those reading sprints, and there were a lot of things that I really enjoyed about this book. Like, for example, love that it takes place in New York, and the New York vibes were very strong in this. I'm not super familiar with like Lovecraft and like what that's about and what that even means, but apparently this is some kind of retelling that I didn't I don't really understand like how this is a retelling. I'm not familiar at all with these characters, but I enjoyed this book for what it was. I do think it was a little bit more like fantasy than I was anticipating, because, you know, this story is about this man who opens this door into like a deeper realm of magic, and so there definitely is some like fantasy elements to it, you know, with the magic that I wasn't really expecting. And like, I don't know, fantasy is so like hit or miss for me, and I feel like for the most part the fantasy in this was fine, but I did enjoy, like, there was some really like creepy kind of moments in this book. There was a lot of really great conversation and like relevant conversation about like mankind and stuff. I really liked this one quote that was like, mankind didn't make messes, mankind was the mess. I will say some of the fantasy aspects, especially towards the end, got a little bit hard to follow, and like if I had to explain what this book is about to someone, I'm not even sure that I could do that. But at the same time, I actually really liked the vibe of this book, and I liked the creepiness, you know, I liked the idea of this like portal that opens a door to like a world of magic. I like the idea of it. I think it's really cool. I think for my personal taste, this book is probably like a 3 out of 5 for me, just because there were some things that I really liked about it, and I would still recommend reading this, just not necessarily if you're looking for something similar to Stranger Things, because I personally think I would give this like a 2 out of 5 in terms of like how similar is this to Stranger Things. I don't see too many similarities between this book and Stranger Things other than, you know, the fact that there's this door that's kind of like a portal. It kind of reminds me of like the portal to like the upside down kind of thing, and there is some really like graphic and gory violence in this book that kind of could give you like some horror vibes or some Stranger Things vibes, but otherwise like there isn't really anything about this book that I could connect to Stranger Things. I still do think this is a book that's cool and it's worth reading. I just wouldn't personally recommend this for fans of Stranger Things necessarily, because I don't think there's very much correlation between the two. Like, I don't see it. ASMR. Hello! I just finished filming my June wrap-up. I was gonna say June TBR. I don't know what day it is. And I think today I'm going to try to get to Paper Girls, which should be pretty easy, you know, because it's a graphic novel. I feel like it'll be a quick read. But you want to know something crazy? I get an email from Amazon that's like, oh, did you know Paper Girls is getting made, it's getting adapted into a new series on Amazon Prime, and apparently it says it's gonna be coming out on July 29th, but Amazon just sent me an early screener this morning, because ever since I did the thing with that show Panic that came out on Amazon, I had to sign up to get like an early screeners pass for Amazon or whatever, or they sent me a link to sign up for it or something like that. And so ever since, like sometimes I'll get early access to different Amazon Prime things that are coming out through Amazon, and I didn't even know that this was gonna be a thing. I did not realize that Paper Girls was getting adapted. And like somehow this morning I just woke up to an early screener email. Like, what is the universe? So I feel like this is the universe telling me that not only should I absolutely read Paper Girls today, but that I should watch the first episode of Paper Girls on Prime Video. Anyways, I just thought the timing of that was absolutely insane and ridiculous. So I think I'm going to edit this video really fast and then I'm going to read Paper Girls. I just finished reading volume 1 of Paper Girls, and like, I'm so excited because this is definitely the most Stranger Things vibes that I've read for this video so far. I thought this was so freaking good, and this was, you know, pretty short for a first volume, and it ended on such a big cliffhanger. So I looked and my library, thank the gods, has the second and third volumes available. So I feel like I'm gonna go to my library tomorrow to pick those up because I'm obsessed. This graphic novel series, it basically just follows these 4 12-year-old girls, and they're called Paper Girls because they're like, you know, the newspaper girls, like they throw the newspapers. It takes place on the night of Halloween in 1988, which, like, okay, the vibes are so strong. I love the Halloween vibes. I love that it's like these 4 girls on bikes. It's very like Stranger Things vibes, except instead of 4 young boys, it's 4 young girls. This graphic novel was just so cool. Like, the colors were so poppin'. I really loved the color choices that were made in this. I just thought it was really interesting to read. I think it has characters that you immediately care about and you immediately just get drawn into this story. And not to mention that cliffhanger at the end of volume 1. So like, oh my gosh, I think for me, for personal enjoyment, I think I'm gonna give this first graphic novel a 4 out of 5, even though I could see myself potentially really loving some future stuff that's gonna be happening in this series. For Stranger Things vibes, I have to give this like a 5 out of 5 for Stranger Things vibes. Like, if you are into Stranger Things, I do think you would love this. This has major Stranger Things vibes. Like, we're talking 80s vibes, we're talking creepy ass kind of like some kind of sci-fi thing, like monsters are happening, like they don't really know yet fully what's going on, but it's very creepy in that sense. And then, you know, we're also talking about 12-year-old kids on bikes, you know, trying to figure things out, like mysteries. It's just 100% Stranger Things vibes. And I actually checked, and this graphic novel came out in early 2016, and it's actually right before Stranger Things came out. So this graphic novel actually came out first, because I just realized that today the trailer for Paper Girls actually came out today, and it looks hella Stranger Things vibes, and a lot of the comments were like, this is copying Stranger Things, and then a lot of people were defending it in the comments and saying, no, if you look, Paper Girls actually came out first. Interesting. Like, I can definitely see the strong Stranger Things vibes with this one, and it's so wild to me that this came out before Stranger Things. Like, how cool is that? Like, oh my god, I loved it. Like, finally we have a winner in this vlog. Oh my god. Enjoyed the comics, I really do think you're gonna like the show. It's super cute. Alright! It's the next morning. I just went to the library. I got the goods. I got volumes 2 and 3 of Paper Girls. They don't have, I mean, my library does have 4, 5, and 6, but they're currently checked out right now. So I'm probably gonna put those on hold. But like, aren't they beautiful? Like, is this gonna become my new personality? Oh my gosh, I can feel it. It's a little bit later in the night, but I wanted to let you know that this afternoon I started Sawkill Girls and I got 155 pages into it already just in that one sitting. And I'm so excited that I'm kind of liking this so far. This book is actually one that I've DNF'd twice. I didn't let you know that at the beginning because I just wanted to go in with some positivity, but I've tried to read this book a few times because I bought this book on the day it came out in 2018, and I started to read it on like the day that I bought it, and then I was like, I'm not in the mood. And then I tried to read this book again last year, I think in October. One of these last Octobers, I was doing a video that was like reading the scariest audiobooks or something like that, and I downloaded the audiobook from Libro just for that video, and then I only got like 10% into the audiobook before I was like, this isn't for me. And so full-heartedly I was gonna expect to go into this and not like it because I haven't connected with it in the past. But now that I've pushed through the beginning, I am really enjoying this. This is a story about these 3 different teenage girls who live on this island called Sawkill Rock, and all of these girls are going missing on this island. There's been 23 girls who have gone missing recently, and then we follow these seemingly random characters. So we have Marion, who's like the new girl in town, and then we have Zoe, has a very interesting relationship with these other characters, and then we have Val, who's kind of like the queen bee. And so far, I'm just really liking the vibes of this. It's honestly kind of like spooky, like there's something going on in the woods and like there's a reason why these girls are going missing. There's also quite a bit of like creepy shit with bugs. I mean, I knew these moths on the cover were gonna have like something to do with the story, and I finally figured out why there's moths on the cover, and the whole thing with like bugs in this book is really freaking me out, and it's really good. I also love how it feels to me like almost all of the characters in this book are queer in some way, or at least like that's the vibe that I'm getting so far, and I really love that. Like, definitely here for that. The only part of this book that I'm finding a little bit like hard to get into, or the only part that's a little cringy, is like the villain of this story. Like, we kind of know early on in this book like who the villain is, I guess, and kind of what's happening with them, and I'm finding that whole thing to be just a tad bit cheesy, but I am enjoying this a lot more than I was expecting to. And you know, the Stranger Things vibes, you know, I can definitely see it with this, just because, you know, we are following like a group of friends kind of, but they are a little bit older, you know, they're like closer to like 16, 17 instead of like younger kids, and it's mostly all girls. Like, there's only one guy that's kind of like in their group, but it's mostly girls, which, you know, I don't mind it, but I definitely feel the like small town vibes, even though this is almost like cool because they're on an island, you know, so it's almost like island vibes as well, but it's just very, you know, very atmospheric, and so far I feel like it is really well written. And so I'm just planning on sitting here, you know, it's only about 10:30 right now. I think I'm gonna try to read a little bit more tonight, maybe around like another 100 pages tonight would be cool. I've got my mini M&Ms, so like we're good. And then before bed I might try to watch another episode. I just started this new K-drama, and it's called Beyond Evil, and it's on Netflix. I only watched the first episode the other night, but it was so interesting, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, and I feel like it would actually tie well with this book because the show Beyond Evil is about this like teenage girl that went missing, but then we're following from the point of view of 2 cops in like the present day, and they're trying to figure out what happened in the past. Really interesting, and it was a really good first episode, so I think I'm gonna watch the second episode tonight. And like, oh my gosh, you guys, tomorrow is the day. Stranger Things, the last 2 episodes of season 4 come out tomorrow. Me and Olivia and my sister, we're gonna be doing a stream on my Patreon for the Stranger Things finale episodes, and I'm so excited. I'm so nervous. I'm so fucking nervous. So I'm gonna distract myself tonight by reading this and then watching Beyond Evil. So last night I was able to read quite a bit more. I got up to page 260, and I feel like the further that I'm getting into this book, like no spoilers or anything, but the further in I get, the more I can see the similarities to Stranger Things. Currently getting ready to watch the last 2 episodes of season 4 of Stranger Things. We're getting ready to do the live stream with Olivia, and I'm so excited. I'm so nervous. This morning we just went to the gym and we got Starbucks real quick, and now we're ready to go, and my heart is not ready. You know, like, I'm really not ready for this, so pray for me. We survived.
Stranger Things. We survived it.
I liked it.
It's intense.
It was really good.
It was
Sad.
wild, sad,
Insane.
insane, totally different, never the same.
Crazy, loved it.
Loved it. I'm very excited for season 5.
Nervous.
Very nervous, but also very excited. We're probably going to do an entire podcast episode dedicated to these last 2 episodes to talk about it, so I'll have that link down below somewhere.
Hello, how's it going? As of right now, it's been, a full 24 hours since Stranger Things came out. And, that show was pretty freaking incredible. I couldn't stop thinking about it, because me and Olivia and Rachel, we all watched it together yesterday on my Patreon for like 5 hours. We did a whole live show watching it. And then me and Rachel ended up doing a recap with my mom, and we were rewatching it again at the end of the night, and it was just like a lot of Stranger Things yesterday. It was so freaking great, and I think on a rewatch, like rewatching the clips again with my mom, it just made me love it even more. Like, I just think that was such a strong season finale, and I think that season 4 is one of my favorite seasons of Stranger Things. Like, I thought that was a really, really solid season, and I'm super happy about it. But the reason why I'm updating is because I wanted to let you know that I just finished listening to Sawkill Girls on audio, and I don't know how to rate this book, because there are some things that I really enjoyed about this book, and then some things that I thought were just fine. I feel like for me personally, it's probably gonna end up being around a 3 or like a 3.5 star, because while I did really enjoy the first half of this book, I thought there was so much intriguing things happening, but then I feel like as we get towards the end of the book, it started to feel, I don't know, just a little bit more fantasy and just kind of like not really my thing. Like, I don't know, I just started to lose interest as the book was going on. But the funny thing is though, that I feel like as the book was going on, it started to get more and more like Stranger Things, in my opinion. Like, I can see, because at the beginning I was like, okay, it doesn't really feel that similar to Stranger Things, because it's like all these girls are going missing on this island, and I was just like, okay, like the friendship group kind of feels like Stranger Things vibes, but that was about it. But then after around the 200 page mark or so, when things start really getting interesting in the plot, I was like, oh, okay, I can see why this is getting compared to Stranger Things. Like, I'm definitely getting that now. But I also feel like it made the story feel a bit more fantasy in a way that I was anticipating. And something that I didn't really expect, that like I should have anticipated this, because I feel like somewhere in my brain I knew about this but I had just forgotten, is the fact that one of these 3 girls is actually asexual in this book. And I totally forgot that there was asexual representation in this book. So I was kind of like taken off guard by that, because if you didn't know, I'm asexual, so seeing that representation in books really means a whole lot to me. So that definitely added to the enjoyment of the book for me. I really loved some of the discussions that this character kind of had about asexuality, and one of the comments that this other character made to her, I was like, bitch, what the fuck? Like, that was uncalled for, unnecessary, like, no. But yeah, I think overall for me, this book is gonna land somewhere between a 3 to a 3.5. There were some things I loved about it, but me, personally, I wasn't a huge fan of, like, the villain aspect of this story. I feel like if you know, then you know. Some of the things that I loved about this story is I really did like these 3 main girls that we're following in this story. I liked their friendship. I liked some of their romance, I liked that there was asexual representation. I liked, some of the beginning was so freaking creepy, and I was also kind of invested in this mystery of like, why are these girls going missing and what's going on with that. There were also a lot of creepy scenes towards the beginning that were like, these girls are like, there's something out in the woods, and like, what's going on in the woods, and I really liked the vibe of that. And I do think that even though this was like around a 3 to 3.5 stars for me personally, I think the Stranger Things vibes has to be like a 4 out of 5. I think this is definitely one of the books in this video that feels the most like Stranger Things to me, and I do think that fans of the show would really like this because of the similarities between this book and the show. So at least there's that, because even though this book wasn't a new favorite of mine necessarily, at least I can recommend it for fans of Stranger Things. Anyways, I only have one book left to read for this video, and that is The Body by Stephen King. I was actually able to get my hands on the ebook from my library, so I'm reading it now. I'm about 40 pages in, and this copy is about 268 pages. But you want to know something that I think is so wild? Okay, this is the cover of the book that I'm currently reading, right? This book originally published in 1982, but the original cover looked different because this is like a republished edition of it that came out in like sometime in the 2010s, But last night I was just like looking out of curiosity, and I saw that this book has been, it's been published in a number of different editions, and the Italian cover of this book, which came out in 2018, looks like this, which like, oh my gosh, does the Stephen King text like on this title not look like Stranger Things? Like, it literally looks like they took the Stranger Things main logo and just like used that font and made it into Stephen King on this Italian book cover. Isn't that crazy that this is the book that I chose to read for this video, or that got picked for this video, and this is the one with like a cover that looks exactly like Stranger Things? But anyways, I'm only 40 pages in at the moment. So far I'm finding it to be kind of slow. There's a dog coming in. But so far I'm finding it to be just a little bit slow. It's just about these, you know, boys who are living in like the 1950s, like 1960s times, but I feel like we're just getting a lot of backstory on these characters so far. Like, I don't know, I'm finding it very slow and hard to get into, but now I'm starting to feel like I'm starting to get into the story, so hopefully from this point on it's kind of a quick read. Man, in this book they keep talking about Castle Rock. Like, he says, we had a tree house and a big elm which overhung a vacant lot in Castle Rock, and I'm like, isn't Castle Rock like a thing that's in a lot of Stephen King's books? It's like one of his like made up cities or something like that, right? I don't know, I just recognize Castle Rock. And also, random side note, but I really love the way that Stephen King writes almost in like a second person writing style in this, because he says, but first I have to tell you why Vern was digging under the porch. And it's like he's writing to you as the reader, or like he's like, I have to tell you who's reading this. Alright, I'm about 100 pages in to this book now, and I am struggling with this. I don't know if it's because, you know, like this is an issue I have with reading on my phone, is that I get so distracted by like notifications on my phone that it takes me so much longer to read something on my phone than it would if I just was reading something, you know, like physically. But I don't know, I'm not loving this story. I feel like I was a little confused, you know, honestly, when I first started it because of the writing style, and I realized it's because the story's being told from the main protagonist like 20 years later. So like we're getting his story in like 1980 or something, and he's telling the story of what happened when they were kids in the 1960s. So I was a little bit confused on like the timeline there. I feel like there was one chapter that was just like random, like kind of flashback thing about like this sexual moment that he experienced that was just so random and like unnecessary, and I was just like grossed out. Like, I hate the way that Stephen King writes women, especially when it comes to like sex scenes and stuff. I'm just like, ugh, like gag. Also, this book does have two characters named Billy and Eddie, and I'm like, cool, but also like I don't really care about these characters very much. Like, the only Billy and Eddie I care about are these two right here, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I don't know, I'm finding this book to be very boring, just like so very boring. I think I'm just gonna start skimming at this point, get to the end, see how I feel about it, but it just doesn't look good, you know? It just doesn't look good for me. Okay, before I wrap up this video, I wanted to show you these really cool Stranger Things different books that I've gotten over the years. This one is The World's Turned Upside Down. This is a behind the scenes companion, and it's mostly for, you know, season 1 of Stranger Things, and it's so cool because this book actually came kind of damaged like this. Like, it's supposed to look kind of damaged, which I just think is so freaking cool. It like adds so much to this, you know. It's got the drawing on the back there, and this book, if you flip through it, there's just a lot of like, you know, behind the scenes stuff about how they were able to make the first season of Stranger Things. I think it does include a bit of season 2 in this actually as well. Yeah, because it involves Billy's character, of course, but there's some really cool stuff in here. I love they do these like character profiles in here that make it really fun and like interactive, and I flipped through this quite a few times, and I just love seeing all the different behind the scenes photos. It just makes it so cool as a huge fan of the show. Another one that I have is Visions from the Upside Down. This one's an art book, and so it's different art from the show, and this one is really sick. Like, there's all these different kinds of, I think it's like fan art that's in here. I'm not totally sure if this is all done by like the same artist or if these are all different artists, but it's just incredible. Like, there are so many different art styles in here, so I just thought I would give you like a quick flip through of what these look like. If you're just so freaking cute, like look at them. So much to look at in this, like for real. There's so many cool different like styles, different ideas. I love the drawings of all the Demogorgons like that. It just looks so freaking cool. So yeah, anyways, as you can see, there's a lot of really cool drawings in this, and I'm obsessed with it. I love it. Hello, what's up? It's the next afternoon, and I'm here to update you because I finally finished reading The Body by Stephen King. And this book is considered a novella. It's considered to be pretty short, and it took me way longer to read than I was anticipating because I could just not get invested in this story. Like, I feel like this book was my freaking Everest. Like, I just couldn't get into it for the life of me. And I feel like for me personally, it's a 2-star, possibly possibly even lower. Like if I really think about it, it might be closer to like a 1.5 star. I just didn't really enjoy anything about this book, and it's such a bummer because I see that this book is really loved by a lot of Stephen King fans, and I feel like maybe I'm missing something, but I just don't see it with this book. I found none of these characters to be very likable, and they were all just kind of boring and forgettable, and I didn't connect with any of them. I also feel like this book in a way was trying hard to be kind of like It, and I just think It is so much better in every way because I think this group of boys in this book, they remind me of like the group in It in a way, but also I just think these characters are a lot more interesting in the book It, especially because the main character in this group of boys in the body, he's a writer, which is very much like Bill from It. Like he's also a writer, and so I just see a lot of similarities between these two groups, and I just feel like if you're gonna read one Stephen King that's kind of similar to Stranger Things, I think it should be It instead of The Body, because The Body, you know, it takes place mostly in the 1960s, so the vibes are a little bit different than, you know, the 1980s of Stranger Things vibes. I also was just really annoyed by some of the writing in this book. I mean, I know this book came out in the 80s, so of course it's gonna have some language in it that's not acceptable today, but it's just also so annoying the way these the way these guys are written. Like when he's an adult and we're reading him in the present day, he's like, I would not cry in front of my wife because that would make me a it's like, oh my god, really? Like, okay. I just was so annoyed the whole time I was reading this book. And I know this book was adapted into a really well-known Stephen King adaptation, Stand By Me, apparently, so maybe this story works better in movie format, but I was just incredibly bored by the book, and I could just recognize that this was not for me. And so for me personally, it's like a 1.5 star. And then I guess to compare this to Stranger Things, I would also only give this like a 2 out of 5, at least with comparing it to how similar it is to Stranger Things, because just because a book follows a group of a bunch of boys does not mean that it's similar to Stranger Things. Like that's the only real connection I can make with this. Like of course there's a little mystery involved, there's a little bit of, you know, something happening in their small town, but besides that there's nothing really this book has in common with Stranger Things. And I feel like by doing this video I've actually learned that it seems like when a book is compared to Stranger Things, there's a higher chance that I probably won't enjoy it. And I think it's because, if I'm being honest with myself, I don't usually like the trope of like a bunch of young kids getting together and trying to solve a mystery on their own. I actually think I'm not a huge fan of that trope, but I think Stranger Things is the exception to the rule, because I think what makes Stranger Things so fucking great is the characters. You know, like if the characters on Stranger Things weren't that good, I would not be as into it as I am. You know, it's definitely the characters that make these shows. And so that's why I think when I'm reading these books, I really struggle to, you know, connect with them as much as I connect with Stranger Things, because the characters just aren't as strong in any of these books. But with all that being said, I do think Paper Girls is probably the closest, you know, Stranger Things vibes you can get while actually having some interesting characters. I did actually end up reading volume 2 of Paper Girls last night, and I am continuing to really love this graphic novel series, so I'm planning to finish this graphic novel series because there's 6 volumes out in total. These are just the first 2, but I'm loving it so much. Like, and these 4 girls actually have really interesting personalities and are actually really cool characters, and this series just reminds me a lot of Stranger Things. So if you're gonna take any recommendations from this video, I would highly recommend checking out Paper Girls. This is by far the most Stranger Things vibes I get from any of the books that I read in this video. I also can definitely see it with Sawkill Girls. This one, it takes a minute for things to start to click for why it's similar to Stranger Things, but once it does, I do think that this one has a lot of potential also to be compared to Stranger Things. Like, I can definitely see the similarities with these two, but with everything else that I read in this video, I am kind of struggling to see the similarities, if I'm being honest. Alright, well that is a wrap on this video, so thank you so much for watching if you made it all the way to the end. You know, as I said at the beginning, please do let me know your thoughts on Stranger Things. Let me know how you felt about the most recent season. Let me know if you read any of the books on this list and if you agree or disagree that they can be comparable to Stranger Things. And also let me know if you would like to see another video like this in the future, like possibly reading more books off of this list that I didn't get to, so maybe I can do like a follow-up part 2 maybe this fall of reading more books with Stranger Things vibes. Or let me know if you like this style of video and you'd like to see me do this kind of video for more of my favorite TV shows, like if that's something you want to see. I'm open to any, you know, ideas that you might have. And of course, thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye.